The police is trying to arrest me because I bought a phone from the dark web. Part 1. Hey Reddit, I've never posted anything like this before, but I really need some advice. I'm scared out of my mind and I don't know what to do. This is going to be a long one, so bear with me. A few months ago I was deep in a YouTube rabbit hole and stumbled across a video about the dark web. You know, the typical scary dark web stories that are supposed to be clickbait but still manage to creep you out. I'd always been curious about it, but I'd never actually considered visiting it myself. The whole idea seemed stupid and dangerous. But that night, I was bored, and curiosity got the better of me. So I decided to dive into the abyss. I downloaded Tor and began exploring. Most of the sites I found were just marketplaces for drugs or hitmen, which, while unsettling, didn't pique my interest. But then I found this one listing for electronics. It was like eBay, but everything was ridiculously cheap. Laptops, cameras, gaming consoles, and phones. Brand new high-end smartphones for a fraction of the cost. I was in the market for a new phone and the price was just too good to pass up. I thought, why not? If it turns out to be a scam, at least I won't be out too much money. So I went ahead and placed an order for one of the latest models. The seller promised it was new and unused, with all the original packaging and accessories. The whole transaction felt shady, but I brushed off my unease, rationalizing that lots of people probably bought stuff off the dark web without any issues. A couple of weeks later, a nondescript package arrived at my door. It was wrapped in plain brown paper with no return address. My excitement overtook any lingering doubts. I tore it open and found the phone just as described, brand new, still in its box. Everything seemed legit. I powered it on and started setting it up. It worked perfectly, and I was thrilled with my purchase. For a few days, everything was normal. Then strange things started happening. The first sign was the messages. I began receiving text messages from unknown numbers. They weren't spam or ads, they were just strings of random letters and numbers, almost like code. I ignored them at first, assuming it was some kind of glitch or bot. But then they started coming more frequently, and the strings of text started to resemble words and phrases, though they still made no sense. Next came the calls. They were always from blocked numbers, and when I answered, there was never anyone on the other end. Just silence. Sometimes, I thought I could hear faint breathing or whispers, but I couldn't make out any words. These calls came at all hours, even in the middle of the night. It was unnerving, but I figured it was just some kind of prank or scam. Then things escalated. I started noticing that my phone's camera would turn on by itself. I'd be using an app or browsing the internet, and suddenly the camera app would open, showing my confused face on the screen. I'd close it and move on, but it kept happening. Once, I even found photos in my gallery that I hadn't taken, blurry shots of my room, my face while I slept, even the view from my window. One night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to find my phone buzzing like crazy. When I picked it up, I saw dozens of missed calls and messages, all from different numbers. My heart was racing as I opened the messages. They were all variations of the same thing. "We're watching you." I started to panic. I didn't know who was sending these or why, but I knew I had to get rid of the phone. I powered it off and threw it in a drawer, hoping that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. That's when the police showed up. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was getting ready for work when there was a loud knock at my door. I opened it to find 2 officers standing there. They asked if they could come in and talk. I was confused and anxious, but I let them in. They told me they had reason to believe that my phone was connected to a series of crimes. Apparently, it had been used to access illegal websites and send threatening messages. I tried to explain that I had bought it off the dark web and had no idea what they were talking about, but they didn't seem convinced. The officers confiscated my phone and left, telling me not to leave town and that they would be in touch. I was left standing in my living room, shaking with fear. How had this happened? I'd never done anything illegal in my life. I couldn't understand how buying a phone could lead to this. I felt like I was being watched constantly. Paranoia set in. And I started noticing more and more strange things. Cars parked outside my house for hours, unfamiliar faces in my neighborhood, even the feeling of being followed when I went out. I became a prisoner in my own home, too scared to go anywhere or talk to anyone. The worst part was the nightmares. Every night, I'd dream of faceless figures standing over me, watching me sleep, whispering threats. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. I was losing my mind. I finally decided to do some research. I scoured the internet for any information about phones purchased on the dark web and found countless stories of people experiencing similar things. It seemed like I wasn't alone, but that didn't make me feel any better. If anything, it made things worse. The stories all had one thing in common. They never ended well. Now I'm terrified. I don't know what to do. The police haven't contacted me again, but I'm sure they're still watching me. And those messages and calls haven't stopped, even though the phone is gone. I don't know if I'm being paranoid or if someone is really out to get me. I'm writing this in the hope that someone can help. Has anyone else experienced anything like this? What should I do? I'm scared for my life and I don't know where to turn. Please, if you have any advice or know anything about this, let me know. I'm desperate.